Hey guys, Mike here. So kind of an interesting day in the market. Not really so much, but it was interesting because there was some definite rug pulls for certain reasons. Some like Palantir got double whammied. One of them was completely stupid. One reason that is. I'll show you that right there. Obviously SMI, nice pullback at the end of the day. Show you why that happened. You know, it's funny. Again, HIMS we'll talk about because everybody and their mother's trying to short this stock. They got earnings coming up as well. We'll talk about, we'll compare. You'll see, like, why is this happening and why people keep trying to short it and stuff and why they keep getting crushed, really. And again, shorts will be right eventually. No doubt about it. They always are at some point in time. But will they obviously be solvent by the time that day comes? That's really the big question. And I'll show you what people are looking at when they're looking at HIMS and what all the narratives are and all that fun stuff. And we'll talk about one, the FOMC minutes did come out. And there were two big things to watch, especially one of them. And I've been warned about this one. And the other thing is, real quick, the weekly inflows, outflows, what happened might surprise you. Actually did surprise me a little bit. I don't know why, but it just did when you see it. And so we'll get into those right here. Another stock to watch, which, maybe it becomes like a HIMS, because what are you seeing now? And I'll show you, you're seeing them run these low float, high shorted stocks up, take money. Again, those fade, and then here comes more money moving over. That's basically what's happening. The money's just sloshing around into these stocks. And so when you look at the weekly fund flows, you can see what happened last week. Well, they sold out almost $3 billion in U.S. large cap stocks, U.S. mid cap stocks, $1.3 billion. And where'd it go? And it kind of surprises me because I'm surprised it wasn't more going into global. It's almost basically about $1 billion. But when you look, it went into bonds. Right? I mean, that's where it went. It was like $6.5 billion. They're going into bonds. So it was like, okay, then. Well, there we go. So we see where that money flowed into. And it kind of makes sense in a way. I've been talking about this for a while, but because what do you see in the Mag 7 do? They're not all moving at the same time. One or two will be moving. The rest of them are going sideways or down. And I just did a whole members video about another thing that's causing this to happen. Okay, and we'll talk about Microsoft in this video, so make sure you pay attention to that one, because maybe it's going to be the next one they're going to try to run up. It's like tag you're it. Well, maybe it just got tagged today. We'll find out, and I'll talk to you about that why. Now, very important here. Here's the big one. Two notes. FOMC minutes comes out, and they discuss the possibility of pausing or slowing the balance sheet runoff, okay, pending resolution of the debt limit. This is a big one. This is a way for them to do what? Stop QT. If they pause that runoff, and they've already paused rates, and you know dang well they ain't raising no rates. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. And so, because they can't help the housing market, they can't get insurance down, none of that stuff's going to matter, okay? And so that's a big one. Watch out for that, because the market will absolutely love it. Because remember what happened? I showed you what happened when they cut it by 50% that June. Actually, when they announced it in March, the market started going up, and then June it really rallied, okay? Because that is stopping QT, okay? Now, the other one was some participants remarked that the reported inflation at the beginning of the year was harder than usual to interpret it because of difficulties in removing seasonal effects. And a couple participants commented that any increase in reported inflation in the first quarter due to such difficulties would imply a corresponding decrease in reported inflation in other quarters of the year. So that's a big one. They're expecting better reports on this inflation deal, okay? So watch out for that. Now, HIMS here, obviously this is a daily chart, and it's going straight up. I mean, it's just moon rocketing, okay? You may get a couple of days of consolidation, but besides that, what was it up? At one point in time, 23, 24%, some crazy mess. And I don't think it's any coincidence what you see happen here, right? Nobody's talking about quantum computer stocks anymore. All of a sudden that went quiet. But you're seeing just a lot of these quantum computing stocks, these nuclear type stocks, the stocks that were the low float, highly shorted stocks that were just mooning, okay, going crazy. A lot of people made a lot of money, and money shifts, right? Money shifts. You can see these charts. And when you see when HIMS started to go up and you see when these started to come down, it's about dang near the same point here, okay? And so that's one thing I think you're seeing happen for sure. There's no doubt about it. The other one is, again, when you look at this, it is a low float, highly shorted stock, and it's gotten a lot of hype going on. And again, it's a real business. But again, when your float is 178 million and you're 33% shorted, last time we know. I don't know when they update these, obviously with the short percentage and things like that. But on income, on sales, look at the sales and income to the left over here, right? Go to Palantir real quick. There's another narrative going out there, okay? They're saying, wait a minute. Palantir is not a low float, not a highly shorted stock. It's sitting with a PE of 655 and a price to sell of 98 and a market cap of 282 billion with sales of 2.87 billion and income of 462 million. Again, I don't know how often they update this stuff, but it's not going to be like super far off, I don't think. But when you go back to HIMS and you go, wait a minute, how far can they push this thing up? And again, I know before you start screaming in the comments not to compare sectors, I get that. I totally get it. I'm just telling you what is flying all over Twitter right now. All right, and understand where people are looking. Sales 1.24 billion, income 101 million, market cap is only 15 billion. Okay, and it's a low float, highly shorted stock. And we've seen this movie before. And the more the shorts keep trying to get in there, they keep getting smoked. That's what's continuing to happen. And so you look at that, and people are looking and going, wait a minute, well, if Palantir can push up to this number and this market cap, how come HIMS can't do it, right? And again, look at them numbers. I mean, it's not like Palantir has a great deal more sales or income versus, look at their freaking PE, 655. And so this is one of those narratives being painted. You can pull up Celsius. Matter of fact, whole different sector as well. Well, when you go through and look, and I show the members, it looks identical, almost perfectly identical to HIMS. What is different though? The PE is way lower. The price sales is way lower. Not that stuff matters anymore, especially on short squeezes. I mean, seriously, we all know that. But again, and I don't know if Wall Street bets behind any of these stocks. I have no idea. I don't follow them. So if you do, please put in the comments. Again, but yes, I mean, that's the narrative that's keep going up. And they got earnings, I think it's Monday. And so eventually shorts will be right. These big moves going to happen. You saw it in SMCI today. You saw it in Palantir. What goes up like a rocket, can have some quick drops. And the way they manipulate these stocks down, whether they deserve it or not, is going to be with news for sure. Okay, they'll be loading up on puts. And I'll show you what I'm talking about right here when it comes to Palantir. Somebody knew before that press release came out, because puts already crossed over to calls about an hour before one of the press releases came out, okay? We're going to get in that in just a minute. SMCI, here we go, surging over $8 or 15% intraday. And this is another one you're starting to see. You never heard anything about the calls, the puts, or anything on this thing. And it was just, look at the calls. That's the yellow line going up, no puts, just roaring and roaring and roaring. But again, you had to pull this up on a logarithmic scale. What did it run into? A brick freaking wall right here. And this is what happens. It ran into the 1.5 fib, this is a logarithmic scale, descending trend line, which has been multiple rejections. And I remember this now. This was a while back. But when this thing hits like a $66 and 60 cents, whatever it is, they call it 666, it used to bounce. Bounced multiple times. See right here? Bounced multiple times. Kept holding it up, it. Was a big joke. People would day trade the 666 lines, what they would do. That's what they called it. And so you can see that right there. So again, a lot of confluence coming into this area, already up enormous. Look at the wall. I mean, it's just straight up vertical. Okay. And remember, this is a play saying they're going to report their 10Q in time, or 10K, whatever the heck it is. And more importantly, what's it going to say? Right? They're not going to have to revise their statements. It's almost, I'm looking at this thinking, again, I think I asked this last night, but it's almost like becoming a sell the news event at this point in time. In a way, they've ran it up so much. You can see when it hit there, boom, big drop down, All right, but what did it do? It hit another trend line, an ascending trend line that was resistance, and bounced and got a nice little pop right there. And so again, that's SMCI. We'll see what happens. Let me know if you think it's a sell the news event, all that fun stuff. And then here's Palantir. Oh boy, woo, boom. Actually dropped down a little farther than that, but I recorded it like 20 minutes before I closed. And what happened? Here this headline hits. U.S. looks at 8% defense budget cut in each of the next 5 years, which I 100% agree with. I hope they do it. But look at this right here. When did the puts cross the calls? Around 1 o'clock. Well before this came out. Well before it came out. These are like millions of dollars of puts versus the calls, right? And then, of course, news hits. Boom. Puts just fly up right here. Calls stink. Everybody sells the calls and starts buying puts. Loading into this thing. And so they knew. And I'll talk about the other headline in just a minute. But when you look, I had this box drawn out on the daily fair value gap. So look for that one to be an area if it does pull back. And of course, man, it got right there. I think it was like 20 cents from digging into that fair value gap. But it got right to the golden pocket. I mean, penny to the penny on the golden pocket. And that a nice little bounce right there. We'll see if this is going to hold. Again, this is a news candle. So that's what you got to see. It doesn't mean all of a sudden the Defense Department's going, oh, we got to get rid of Palantir. I'm hoping what they get rid of is trying to build a World War II type of military. Like we're going to be going out in the Pacific Ocean or something, and we're going to just have this huge battle out in the Pacific Ocean. Like, give me a break. Like, quit giving these defense contractors a bunch of money, and then by the time they give it to us 5 to 10 years later, it's obsolete or doesn't work, and they still get to keep the money. Like, get rid of that. Like, Palantir is software. It's AI. It can't even be that much compared to going to build a freaking ship. You know what I'm saying? We don't need, or some kind of fighter jet we don't need anymore. Stuff like that. I think that's what they're talking about. But again, this is a way to pull it down, go into a discount, all that good stuff, but it's run up a lot. And that's why you'll see it. Any news? The other one was, I think it was like 20 minutes before this headline, maybe they hit at the same time, was Alex Karp selling $1.2 billion of his stock going up to through September. Bro, first of all, the dude's rich as can be. Second of all, would you not sell $1.2 billion in stock? For anybody, that's life-changing money for him. He's already super rich. But, you know, I mean, what do you want him to do? I'd be selling too. You know how I feel about that when it comes to the executives, because this stock has ran up so much. They're like, you be an idiot. It's like the woman, and I don't mean to be mean about this or rub salt in the wound, obviously. It's like the one on Beast Games. My son loves Mr. Beast from YouTube. And this woman, so I watched the show with him, right? So we spent some time together, and I enjoy it too. I enjoy games like that. But again, this woman, for those who don't watch, the ultimate is $5 million prize, right? It ended up doubling to $10 million, like really later on in the game. But it was $5 million. She was offered, that I know of, $1 million to walk away from the game twice. All she had to do was take it and walk away. She turned it down. I think it was the third time earlier on that I missed, but yeah, at least twice I know of. $1 million for a regular person. She had a family. She liked helping kids who poor and stuff, right? Turned it down. Gets to the end of the game, gets second place, has zero. Mr. Beast was nice enough to give her $100,000 to go home, but yeah, you don't think she was crying? Absolutely, she was crying. And I told my son, I said, what did you learn from that? And he told me, and I said, I'm going to tell you something. Don't you ever, whether you want to talk about God, luck, whatever it is, that's a blessing. God literally said, here, or, you know, whatever, higher powers or just luck, presented you an opportunity, a regular person making regular income with your family to help kids, $1 million twice, and you turn it down. For what? I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to play the game fair. It's a game. You are never going to see those people again. That is your family you just screwed over. That is your friends. All those kids you want to help out, you ain't helping them no more. Like, it was given to you, right? And I know I got off track on that one, but again, it's the same with these executives. If this thing runs up to 78 and they don't sell these shares, and don't say for whatever reason we hit bad times in the U.S., boom, the stock drops to, you know, $30. How long am I going to have to wait to sell at that price again? I mean, seriously, no. That is life-changing money for a lot of people. Of course you take the opportunity. But of course, the stock uses an opportunity to sell down. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight on that one. I just covered the stock. Now, we'll see by tomorrow. This is going to be another one. It's going to be Celsius, right? You're in this falling wedge right here, okay? And it loves falling wedges, by the way. They announced earnings. That was the big pop of the day. So they'll have earnings tomorrow. This one's been gutted. Where did it bounce? Exactly on the 0.79 fib. This thing is down like 78%, I believe. Just been gutted, okay? When's enough? And you see this falling wedge? Boom. You know, it loves falling wedges, okay? Loves the falling wedge. And so here it is once again. And we know how this works. When something's beat down like this, we'll see what happens, because I know calls were flooding in. That could be bad too, because the market's like, oh, calls are flooding in. Well, we can't let that happen. We got to squish them on IB, because IB is extremely high on this one right here. But we'll see. We're going to see if this is going to be one of those ones. And you can see, again, I showed you in the chart, if it does break out, you've seen this on HIMS. And I was telling you this one right here has half the market cap of HIMS, has lower PE, lower price of sales, lower everything, right? The sales are almost identical. The income's almost identical, even with all this. And it's been hammered down 78%. So we're going to find out. You know, this is what HIMS kept getting beat down. They kept beating it down, then it exploded. There's another one too. It's a low float, highly shorted stock. I think it only has like 24% short float. I think it's 100. Don't quote me on this exactly. I showed members $178 million float. 178 million share float. Excuse me. And so we'll see. You know, again, this could crater. Blah blah. See this later. Again, it's a totally different sector. I get it. Don't compare sectors. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And so we'll see. I mean, but this has one of the most interesting charts ever, by the way. Ever. That is totally symmetrical right there on the left and the right. And the drops and the rises are identical. Isn't that crazy? That's rarely you will see something like that. The old nice M pattern. But anyway, so getting away from the high flying stuff to something like this, Microsoft, right? I put this, as soon as I recorded this, remember to put it in there, this thing broke out with calls, okay? But the 411 area was supposed to be, you see where it closed today, calls started flowing in. It got to like 415, I think was the high. But this RSI is above that moving average. You look like you're about to get a bullish MACD cross in the daily. And when that happens, again, this is the one that's been held back. I think out of all the Mag 7, this one just has been held back for a while. And so here you go. We're going to see it's been in that range, or they're going to take us to the top of the range once again. And we're going to go from 411 to 450. Okay, it's happened multiple times, maybe from 411 to 438, somewhere in there. And so we'll see if this is going to start being the flavor of the month for the Mag 7. Because remember, money was rolling out of Meta today, right? Money, was flowing into Tesla today, rolling out yesterday. Money's been flowing out of Google, been flowing out of Amazon, right? And so we'll see if this is going to be the next one. I think it's the third highest weighted Mag 7 there is, behind Apple and Nvidia. So we'll see how this is going to go. And it's got that huge earnings gap. So pay close attention to Microsoft and see if this continues tomorrow or the next day. Now, watch LRCX. I was telling members about this one. This pattern so far is repeating almost identical. Nothing's perfect. But you can see how it comes up, sells off, and then does this little cup right here, right? And so it's doing the same thing once again. It's coming down. It's testing that previous high over there. Moving up. It's above the 200 now. 50's crossing the 100. Still need to get the other moving averages above the 200 cross with the golden cross. And so this one, it makes equipment for the semiconductors and things like that go into circuit boards. Again, on the weekly, this is a weekly chart, by the way. RSI is above 50. You already had your MACD cross, but it's coming above 0, which is big. So this is a higher time frame. This is the lower time frame. Probably get a pullback? Sure, you would think so. It had a nice little move up here. And we're starting to come into overbought territory. So we'll see. But I mean, keep this one on your radar. It's kind of like another play for AI and things of that nature nobody's heard of. And again, it's getting a lot of traction on social media and things like that as well. And up here, if it does get going, there is a gap right there. 100 to 106, I believe it is. And so that will be the target you definitely want to go for sure. But, again, it's not a high-flying type of stock. I mean, I think you got time for that. But just pay attention. If it stays above the 200, moving averages are all starting to point up. That's not a bad thing. And the momentum indicators look good too. So just putting it on your radar. Now, earnings tomorrow is big ones. Alibaba, Walmart, Unity, Wayfair, Cameco. And then we're going to have Mercado Libre, Rivian, Block, XYZ, whatever they want to call themselves. And Newmont, and then Booking Holdings is going to be a big one because that's all about the travel. And so we'll see how those go. And then data, you're just talking about very little. Unemployment in the morning, Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. Besides that, like crude oil inventory, natural gas storage. The big stuff is on Friday for manufacturing PMI and services PMI. So anyway, please hit the like, subscribe button. Let me know how you like the video and stuff. Let me know how you're playing any of those stocks. Think about signing up for the membership. Less the McDonald's combo, and that's everything you get with it. And I'll end up seeing you guys tomorrow for another fun one.